I should comment, you are dressed absolutely resplendently tonight. You've been at an event, have you?
Thank you, I have. I was at the Palace at lunchtime with the Queen Consort. I'm a trustee of Women of the World and she is the patron. So we had a lovely hour in the Long Gallery with her talking about hopefully getting to gender equality.
Amazing. And you've got some research out today, haven't you? Just explain, what does it show?
Yeah. So this is the first time the British Chambers of Commerce has done this research. 4,000 respondents, both men and women, looking at their career development. So really interesting findings. 2/3 of women still say that they have been impacted in their career journey through childcare responsibilities. Over 80% of people don't believe there's enough support for more general caring responsibilities, and 50% of women are worried about how menopause is going to impact them. So
it's still, huge, isn't it? I mean, the menopause, it feels like this is an issue that we're only really recently starting to talk about. I mean, I certainly feel that as a woman, like, that it's something that it's really only become on the national conscience, I mean, other than the people going through it or who have gone through it, quite recently.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, having been in business and in government, it's really only been the last, I would say, maximum 5 years where you see people talking about it, and we see much more through our chamber network, them talking about it, because it's what businesses want to talk about, and obviously women and men, of course. And, you know, there's the whole piece around understanding how it impacts people, doesn't impact everyone, of course, training around that, supporting, and then having to sort of think about how you can work in flexibility around helping people who are going through that. But it's just great that people are talking about it, so people begin to understand it's something they need to learn about.
And then childcare as well is such a huge thing. I mean, it should be for both parents, obviously, but in reality, it's often women whose careers are impacted by this, and that, I guess, is what your research has found.
Yeah, it absolutely is. And what we found is that impact is because it's very hard for women to find affordable childcare. You have to be earning a certain salary before it's really worth you know, going back to work. So it's about affordable childcare, it's about accessible childcare, because it's also quite hard to find if you can find it. So, you know, what we want to do is say, we've looked at all these issues. You know, there aren't quick fixes. We want to have a sort of 3-year campaign where we can put together an equity commission. We can say, OK, let's bring employers together with government, with employment experts. What are the policies that government can put in place? What are the best practice that business can put in place, and how can we really move the needle?
And it's interesting that you surveyed men as well as women. Did you find a bit of a gender gap, should we say, on whether or not people felt that childcare and having kids had impacted their careers? It
was definitely more women who saw an impact on their career when it came to childcare than men. In fact, the gap really closed when it came to more general caring responsibilities, which, you know, you assume are sort of probably parents.
Elderly relatives.
And families and friends. There was a much, you know, there were 86% of people saying there's not enough support around that general caring piece. And, you know, you hear from women more and more who probably have both childcare responsibilities and caring for parents at the same time, so that's a double impact. But, you know, we've got the budget next week.
Yeah, what are you hoping to see in it then?
So we are, you know, there's 1.1 million open roles in the UK. 50% of our businesses say they are struggling to recruit people. So, you know, Chancellor, we really want to look at ways of bringing people back into the workforce. About 1.7 million people don't work because of caring responsibilities. 86% of them are women. Now, of course, not all of them want to work, but actually, you know, if you can have access to affordable childcare, you have that option. So what we want to see is the Chancellor look at things like the current tax-free allowance of £2,000. He could raise that. He could work in other ways of using the tax system to help couples with tax, you know, childcare get into tax, or if you're self-employed, for example, through business expenses. So we would love to see him act on childcare next week.
I'm going to ask a bit of a personal question, because you're a mother as well, and I know that we've sort of spoken a bit about this off camera. Do you feel that your career has been impacted by having kids?
So my kids are a little bit older now, but yeah, I mean, I was in a really privileged position that by the time I came to have children, I was sort of well paid enough that I could afford childcare and go back to work, both of them after about 9 months. But I definitely saw my salary plateau during those probably 4 or 5 years. And that was a point at which my husband's salary overtook mine.
And there's often these critical moments in your career, right? When you're just getting, like you say, you just got to a certain level, you've got the experience, and then suddenly you're, like you say, kind of plateauing.
Yeah. And actually when your partner's earning more, then it generally always falls on you to take the calls from the school when something's gone wrong. I'm very lucky to have a very supportive husband, but it's always a juggle, isn't it?
How it is, exactly. Yeah, I remember getting the advice that, if you manage to kind of stand still in your career when you've got small children under 5, then that's an achievement in itself.
Yeah, which is not what we want in our labour force, is it? It's not. It is great, of course, for women who want to go back to work, but it's about the economy.
Yeah.
It's about that sort of wasted talent that could be back in our workforce that at the moment we really, really need. So how do we support those women who want to go back to work to be able to do what they want to do and give back to the economy?
And also good childcare, I guess, as well, right? Not just any old childcare, but childcare that is actually somewhere that you might feel comfortable leaving your children and not feel the kind of guilt that all mothers and fathers tend to feel.
Absolutely right. A choice of types of childcare that suits as well. You probably work flexibly, you might work different hours, different night shift, day shift, We need options for childcare, absolutely.
Really great to have you on the programme. Thanks very much for coming in.
Thank you very much.
International Women's Day.
You too.